Hey everybody, today's May 28, 2024, and today we're going to talk about the stock market and where I see the stock market headed for the month of June. Before we begin, please read the disclaimer. You can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so last time we left off was around late April, right? And it basically said that we need to hold the 100-day moving average, right? Because if we don't hold the 100-day moving average, we'll probably come down something similar like this, where we basically came down to the 100-day moving average, went up, and failed to hold, and it went down even more, right? Sorry, it's a bit laggy. So we can imagine something similar down here. If we fail to hold, we would probably have a dead cat bounce and then punch low, right? Now, thankfully, we actually did hold the 100-day moving average, and we went up to about the 50-day moving average and basically ripped up higher to new all-time highs, right? So right now we're consolidating a little bit. So the question is, where are we going to be for the month of June, right? So I think that I also said last time that it's important that we have inflation readings. We have inflation readings coming down, cooling as much as possible, right? Because we sort of had a minor increase in the inflation rate from this year, from starting from January all the way up to February. We basically went up from 3.1 to 3.5, right? So obviously the Fed wants inflation to come down. Once it trends down to its target rate of 2%, right? Otherwise, they're gonna have less of a reason to cut rates, right? They usually want to keep rates high if inflation is high to combat high inflation, right? So now that we actually had a slight decrease, not that much, just 0.1%, right, in inflation for last month. So we saw a nice continuation of the rally to new all-time highs as the expectation of potential rate cuts later this year have gone up. And so we started the year off with like 3 to 4 predicted cuts, and then of course with inflation going up, like I just said, with inflation going up higher than we expected, obviously we had to cut those expectations back, right? So, but now that inflation is trending down a little bit more, and hopefully that trend will continue, and we will have to wait until the next CPI report, which is in June 12th, right? And we'll definitely cover that for the next month's video. Hopefully the trend continues downwards, and that will increase the chances of a rate cut this year, right? And people are still speculating as to whether we're gonna have a cut maybe sometime in the fall. People are expecting it around September, right? So I do expect there's a good chance that we could get that cut, but we definitely need to see inflation get closer to 3%, and ideally somewhere below 3%, right? But still, we're still pretty high compared to the historical average, right? But overall, stock market is doing pretty well. Still looking very bullish. Of course, we're at the all-time high, basically, just consolidating over the last few sessions. But let's zoom out a little bit, and we can see the longer view chart, right? We get a clean chart. You can see that we had almost like just a rip higher, right? You can see we had 5 weekly green candles in a row since we sort of bottomed in our last video. And so obviously the market is very optimistic about the future, especially the possibility of a rate cut later this year. But there's also been a lot of developments within the tech market, with AI, Nvidia hitting all-time highs and really helping pull the market up, right? So with the month about to close in a couple days, we can see that the S&P is looking really good. We pretty much have a bullish engulfing. If we're able to close at this level or higher, we're pretty much going to engulf the previous month red monthly candle, right? And that's really great. But keep in mind that we also have this like breathtaking rally this year, right? Like starting from November of last year. So we had 5 green monthly candles in a row with a consolidation, slight pullback, red candle, but we're engulfing this, so this is good. So ultimately, we can see the market continue to go up higher. But like I said, generally, I've said many times in my last videos, so this is the monthly chart going all the way back to, of course, like 20 years ago. But we just look at the start of this rally from the depths of the financial crisis, right? We just see it coming up. We can see that usually when the market gets a little ahead of itself, when it starts to increase at a high angle, we tend to see a pullback. So I wouldn't be surprised, like we're starting to see a bit of a steeper angle here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just consolidate a little bit more, maybe start to cool down a little bit. This whole generative AI, I don't think that artificial intelligence is necessarily overhyped, but I do think that there's a lot of money flooding in, and I think that at a certain point, there's going to be people who are going to be taking some profits, right? And so I wouldn't be surprised if we sort of trend. Historically, the market has trended up, but also pull back to these moving averages, right? And these moving averages are usually very strong levels of support. The 50-day is the silver line, the gold line is the 100-day, and the blue line, of course, the 200-day. The 200-day being very important, right, for a lot of long-term institutional investors. But you can see how we held the 100-day and we basically broke above the 50-day. So I do think that 50-day moving average is going to be strong support if we do come down, as well as being near the previous all-time high, right? So this level around 520, right? We do have a gap up over here, but yeah. So my expectations for the next month, for the month of June, is I do expect us to hold this level, defend the 50-day moving average, and we might come down, fill this gap before moving up higher. But I do think we might consolidate and then try to push up higher to new all-time highs, right? I think there's a lot of optimism within tech sector, and of course, important is also the next CPI report in June 12th, right? And we definitely want to see the trend of inflation coming down, right? We already had a surprising uptick. Remember, the end of last year, in December and early this year, everyone was expecting multiple rate cuts, right? Maybe 4, 5, even 6 rate cuts. But inflation unexpectedly rose. And so that's been tempered down to maybe like 1 or 2 this year, starting in the fall, right? So we definitely want to see the next inflation report, see a continuation down from the March high, right? 3.5. If that is the high, I mean, it could always go up higher, right? But hopefully that is the peak for this, slight surprising raise in inflation this year, and we can get closer to our 2% target, right? The Fed's 2% target. So I think that as long as we trend closer to 3%, let's set like intermediate goals, right? And yeah, we get closer, maybe the 3.3, 3.2, anywhere that or below is really great. The market will probably continue to rip as the expectation for rate hikes increases. The probability of the expectation for rate cuts, probability of rate cuts during the fall, probably during this fall or end of summer, increases, right? So that's what I'm looking for the month of June. Not really expecting much. I think that, like I said, there's a lot of hype in the AI sector, and NVIDIA is continuing to rip up to new all-time highs. And so I do think that at a certain point, people are going to take profits, right? Nothing goes straight up forever. That might temper expectations in terms of where the market might go. But I do think that we will modestly trend higher. Either consolidate with a slight upward angle before breaking up higher. But I think really important is the inflation report, and we definitely want to see inflation come down. Now, just to end this video, I want to look at the VIX. So the VIX has been coming down quite a lot over the last 2 months, right? And usually when this happens, you want to be careful, because when the VIX has come down, like see, we've basically come down 5 weeks in a row, right? 5 weekly red candles in a row. Usually the VIX doesn't just go straight down. It comes down, kind of builds a base, and then it just explodes, right? So these moments of volatility can sometimes come out of nowhere when people least expect it. So just be careful, right? Because when those volatility spikes come out of nowhere and just rip people's faces off, right? The market can just plunge very quickly, right? And very violently. So just be careful. That's also something I'm looking towards looking out for, right? When you have periods where it seems very quiet, volatility seems very muted, and it can all of a sudden just rip up higher. And that's when the market gets a little complacent. So just something to look out for. Ultimately, on the bigger picture, I mean, you can't really be bearish on this market, right? I mean, we're in a very strong. We basically survived the 2022 correction, and we basically have reclaimed and then surpassed that this year and hit all-time highs, right? So let's get a cleaner chart over here. So everything in the longer term secular bull market remains intact, right? But again, we are starting to move away, if this is a monthly chart, from our moving averages. Once in a while, we'll come back and basically retest, and build support, right, on our moving averages, right, from the monthly, weekly, and the daily, right? So it is healthy for a market to pull back once in a while. So just keep that in mind. But yes, ultimately, longer term, I am bullish, and yeah, we'll see next month what the CPI report is on the 12th, and we'll see how that affects the market going forward. Is the CPI going to finally come down even more? And are we going to increase the chances of getting rate cuts later this year, thereby potentially pushing the market higher? Or are we going to get harder than expected inflation? And are we going to see the AI bull market cool down a little bit, thus bring the stock market down a little bit towards the 50-day moving average, right? And if we do that, are we going to defend that level, right? So of course we need more data to come out over the next couple of weeks, and we'll definitely update you at the end of next month, and we'll talk about where I see the stock market heading into the next upcoming months as more data comes out. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, useful, and informative, please like this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe for updates. Appreciate all your support. Thank you again, and have a great day.